Orange Pulp. Ellen Burr back in studio after a couple weeks being away. Tim Ferguson, he's here. Zachary Francis as well. We got a crammed studio. We got a lot to talk about. We've got Back by Popular Demand coming up. NFL Combine questions, just random questions from the Combine of what would you answer. We had fun things such as cat dog, and that's not a bleeping condiment. So we had fun questions with that. We're going to redo that. We've got the ACC Conference Tournament coming up.
The bleeping ACC Conference Tournament.
We've got MLB preview, AL and NL East. But first, we're going to talk about SU men's basketball and their loss to Florida State. They beat them impressively at home, but when they were going in a neutral or at Florida State, it did not go well. What do you see this going into the conference tournament? We've got a nice little jam, so it's trying to fit two people on one mic. That's the extra pause on that.
A loss here is not what Syracuse wanted.
Do you ever want a loss?
Well, there are losses that are more acceptable.
UNC earlier
in the week, but a loss to Florida State. Syracuse went down there thinking that they could win that game, and it was a game that they kind of needed to win for their NCAA tournament hopes. But Tim texted me at one point and he said the Cuse is not loose. And I said, no, they are not.
They've been juiced.
They are tight.
My question with that is, you mentioned it, they needed it for their NCAA tournament hope. How critical is it? I mean, they're on the bubble. Lenardi, who's usually pretty accurate with this stuff, and by pretty accurate, he usually gets like 67 of the 68 teams. He's on their first four in, last four out. Obviously, they need to do something in the tournament now to guarantee themselves getting in.
Yeah, the way that I look at it, they're the 8 seed in the tournament. They're the 9 seed in the tournament, playing at noon on Wednesday. So that's good for me because that means I get to actually watch the game. But they'll be playing Pittsburgh, which is not the team that they wanted to see. Pittsburgh beat them convincingly, if I can speak, both times that they played.
Beat them at Pittsburgh, and then you thought, it would be a little different at home, and they just ran them off the court, basically. And, Ellen, what do you see, as we said, Pitt being a bad matchup, what do you see the biggest issue for Syracuse?
Well, from the FSU game, obviously Syracuse's shots weren't falling in the second half. But I thought the scariest thing with that game was Dwayne Bacon infiltrating the middle of that zone and really breaking it apart. You throw a high post guy in there, and he's playing as all as Bacon did yesterday. It's going to completely tear apart Syracuse's defense.
Which actually, Dwayne Bacon, he has been phenomenal all year. And, I mean, it's a big reason they gave out the ACC postseason awards today. A big reason why he came second in the voting for Freshman of the Year.
Tim, on the other side, when you're thinking, okay, they got our hopes up this year, went down to Battle for Atlantis, won that, came back. Hopkins had his suspension, or Hopkins stepped in Boeheim's suspension. Boeheim came back. The team instantly improved, but it seems like it's kind of fallen back down. Not what you want going into the ACC tournament, and then obviously if they qualify, March Madness.
Well, I think Syracuse's biggest issue right now is depth, and it's been the issue from the start. But I think that, and historically, obviously, Boeheim's played 6-7 guys, but he's had NBA players on that roster before. And I think this year, my hope is for Benajay that maybe he might have an opportunity to get drafted, maybe be in somebody's camp. But they really don't have any NBA guys. And so when you don't go that deep, it becomes a real challenge. I think Cooney's terribly fatigued right now. That's why we've seen some of the regression in his play. Tyler Roberson's...
Benajay's right there with you. I know it hasn't reflected, but you can just see the legs are getting tired.
Well, you can see, he took that shot at the end of the North Carolina game, and, you can't really project necessarily, but if his legs were a little more stronger, maybe he hangs in the air a little bit longer, can make that shot. But, gravity seems to pull him down because he's exhausted. I'm looking at Lenardi's brackets right now. He still has Syracuse as a number 9, in this case in the Midwest region, playing Colorado in the first round as a number 8. So for some reason, maybe prognosticators don't think they're out yet. I think a lot of us would think that that was a killer game because now it puts so much pressure on you. But this Pitt game becomes a must-win right now, and I'd be concerned if I was Syracuse.
You know what's saving them in their bracket
how
now?
How good the ACC is?
One, how good the ACC is, and one particular win that they have this year.
At Duke.
At Duke. That is saving them their NCAA tournament hopes right now.
You can also talk not a bad loss against UNC, not a bad loss for at Virginia. But
you're right. The not a bad losses are helping.
But
it's
the
wins.
It's definitely the win. And then, I mean, we even remember that trip when they went down to go play at Wake Forest, at Duke, and then at Virginia. We thought, are they going to come back 0-3, 1-2 and best? And then they flipped around, went 2-1, and it looked like they had potential to beat Virginia. So that said it almost like, okay, Syracuse is coming back on, and they started peaking, and it just feels like they're falling off. And yes, this team is better than last year, but I feel like we're seeing the same things as last year, where when you run so many minutes, the three-pointer goes away because your shot is all through your legs.
So, Tim, you were talking about Trevor Cooney over the last few games. At home against Pittsburgh, 3 points. At home against NC State, 5 points. At North Carolina, 14. At Florida State, 12. So the last 2 games, pretty good. His 3-point shooting.
That's the big thing.
1 for 9 against Rice.
He was 2 for 10 at Florida State.
And he drifts. He drifts a lot on his shot, which when you're a good shooter, sometimes that doesn't matter. You can account for that, just because you have a good feel for the shot. But this has been going on for the last 2 or 3 years with Cooney.
And the big thing with Cooney is it's not just, he's in the corner ready to go. He's hard around the curl, where it's that quick sprint, hit, pull up, and go. And that's all based on leg strength over, obviously, reputation.
I don't know
and
if it's just leg strength, though. It seems to be a little psychological for Cooney as well. I mean, as Tim said, we've seen this nearly every season from Cooney. It seems like he goes through these really big slumps where it can't just be all physical.
The reason why I say I don't think you're wrong in saying it's mental. Obviously, not one thing's going to describe it, but I feel like I see it every year towards the end of the season after all those minutes have compiled up. So
I think
that's
Cooney.
where I attribute.
I think.
Well, Trevor Cooney is also a very streaky shooter.
Yes.
If he misses that first one, it's an off night for him.
And I think Cooney is by far the hardest working player on the Syracuse team. Like, you just look at his defensive play. He's everywhere. He's so scrappy. And I think because he's so hard on himself, that's where the mental game comes in, and that's where he becomes so streaky, because he's beating himself up as soon as he misses that first shot.
You're listening to Orange Pulp right here. Where do you see them going in ACC tournament play? How far do you see them going?
Well, they've got Pittsburgh on Wednesday.
They could easily be bounced right there.
They could easily be bounced right
there. But they
there.
could easily win as well.
Yes.
Say they win that game, because it's a very winnable game for them.
Very much so.
They have North Carolina the next day. A fresh North Carolina. As much as
the reason why being fresh, let's clarify that real quick. Syracuse will have 1 bye because of the way the ACC tournament sets up. North Carolina will have 2 byes based on seeding.
But
as much as it pains me to say this, North Carolina is my pick to win the tournament.
But let's just look at the Syracuse's history against North Carolina just this season. They've given them 2 very good teams. I think the matchup is pretty good between UNC and Syracuse.
Yeah, but
they have lost both times.
They've lost both times, but by less than expected. I'm not trying to be biased here, but
the UNC game down in Carolina shocked me. The thing with the first Syracuse game was at the Carrier Dome, huge crowd, Jim Boeheim's first game back, so it had all the emotional push ever, and they still couldn't close it out.
They should have won that game.
Yes, but when you add it, it's very hard to beat a team at the professional level 3 times in a season. At the collegiate level, we see that happen a lot.
Well, I think
with such a discrepancy.
I know, but I think UNC has a hard time against Syracuse's 2-3 zone this year, especially.
They do, because they're not a good 3-point shooting team percentage-wise.
They pounded down low to Kennedy Meeks and Bryce Johnson, and honestly, when you have 3 defenders in that 2-3 zone down there, it's kind of hard for Bryce Johnson and Kennedy Meeks to do their thing and take over the paint.
Well, I think what happened the last game is they caught lightning in a bottle from behind the 3-point line. North
Justin
Carolina
Jackson
hasn't done that all
Yeah.
year.
Mm-hmm.
So they're probably not going to do it again. But I think what you look at is Syracuse is 3-8 on the road. Okay, take those three neutral games that were played in the Bahamas. That was like years ago. I mean, it really wasn't.
Yeah,
but it was years ago. So my biggest concern with the whole situation would be, the fact that these really are road games. Now, granted, usually the ACC is being played in Greensboro or Charlotte or someplace, more in ACC country. I mean, not that Washington's that far away, but I just don't. I mean, some Syracuse fans will travel, but I don't think it's a comfortable environment for Syracuse right now.
Well, Syracuse has a bit of an advantage because they have played in the Verizon Center this year.
That's right.
The thing with the collegiate game is everyone loses on the road. It's just one of those things that happens, and the neutral site gives it that extra little twist. But as you said, how far away Syracuse is, they traveled decently, but not amazingly.
Not for the conference tournament. When it was the Big East tournament,
Yes.
they traveled
well, yes, because it's a lot closer.
But NCAA-wise, sometimes they seem to travel more.
Yeah, it depends.
At least in this ACC 3-year segment that we've seen. Maybe things will change as time goes on, especially next year. The next 2 years, the ACC tournament's at the Barclays in Brooklyn, so I bet you're going to see a lot more Syracuse fans.
Should be in Greensboro.
You're listening to Orange Pulp. Coming up next, Notre Dame beat Syracuse women, but by a lot less than we were expecting and a lot less than they did the first time around. You're listening to Orange Pulp. Welcome back to Orange Pulp, joined by Ellen Burr, Zach Francis, Tim Ferguson. I'm Brian.
Brian who?
Armstrong. I'm not okay. It's weird to say my last name in a frequency of my own. So the biggest thing with this is Notre Dame is one of those top-tier women's programs. We talked about it this year. They they played Notre Dame today, or Syracuse played Notre Dame today, and only lost by 11. Syracuse obviously is going to get a high seed in the ACC tournament, and if everything goes as expected, we'll get a high seed in the NCAA tournament. Where do you see this women's team going in the short term for the ACC tournament?
You mean
after the ACC tournament? Because this being the
I think they're going to get a pretty good seed after this showing in the ACC tournament.
Yes.
So NCAA tournament, I think we're going to see
losing in the finals is definitely one of those things that's not going to hurt you.
Oh, definitely not.
And winning so many games and then losing to Notre Dame is not going to hurt you.
Well, if you look at the progression of the women's team this year, like the last time they played Notre Dame on January 21st, they lost 90-62.
It was a blowout.
Nearly 30 points. So
that
today
that was at Notre Dame, if I remember correctly.
So today they lost 68-57 and
neutral site.
Exactly. So I think Syracuse women are really finding their groove, hitting their momentum at the perfect part of the season when it means the most.
I'm looking here at, of course, their version of bracketology, which doesn't seem to have as many platforms as the men does, but they make it all the way to the ACC final, and now they've been moved out of the Bridgeport region to the Dallas region. So essentially, they've gone from the East region to, I believe, it would be the West region equivalent for the women.
Who would that put as their number one seed then?
Baylor, which is a nice.
I would much rather have Baylor as the number one instead of UConn.
Yes,
correct.
Because then there's still a chance.
Yes.
No, I agree 100%.
There's a chance against UConn too, please.
Like a 0.1% chance.
But I would have thought that
there's a chance.
There's a chance.
Well, I'm pretty sure none of us would have thought the Lakers would have beat Golden State today, but that happened. So I guess anything's possible.
If you just believe.
Well, I just would have thought they would have stayed in the East, like a respect kind of thing. Like, you're one of the best teams on the East Coast, so we're going to put you in that region.
But then again, it could have been to help them.
Or
it helps them
either
from
that
a
or
competition standpoint.
Either that or it's a respect thing. We think that you can go far.
Maybe.
We're not going to put you in an automatic. You're going to be eliminated at some point before the Final Four.
But they're still going to probably get home games. It looks like the four teams really haven't changed that they were supposed to have. They still have Albany slated there. They still have Ohio slated there. But now Mississippi State, because when you move them from one region to the next, I guess that kind of plugs in, So that'll be an advantage. I think that's one of the subplots to look at for the women going forward.
Them as a 3 or a 4 there?
They've got them as a 4.
Does it move them up to? I was going to say, does it move them up to a 3?
I thought
come
so.
Selection time.
I thought so.
I thought so.
Let's look at what are your other 3 seeds. You've got Ohio State, which would be essentially in the East. Louisville, who they just beat in the South, which would play their regional in Lexington. That's kind of not very fun there. For them it is. But Arizona State in the Midwest, and then the 3 seed right now would be Kentucky in the West region. So is Syracuse better than any of those 4 teams?
Arizona State came to the Carrier Dome and beat. And it was a close game by the final score. It was kind of close, but just remember the press conference. Coach Q coming out going, everyone's just depressed in here, because it just felt like a just demoralizing demolition. And then you had on the other end, obviously, Tim just saying they beat Louisville.
But not by, obviously, it was an overtime.
Yeah, so
I guess it would be, are they better than Ohio State? Are they better than Kentucky? I mean, I don't know, but I feel like I haven't heard a lot of noise from Ohio State all year on the women's side.
I've seen a couple games with Ohio State. They haven't impressed me, but also you don't know the college game. It's so weird because they've played lower competitions, so
right.
Getting your head right, everything. But I didn't see anything that overwhelmed me to thinking that Ohio State is significantly better than Syracuse.
And I mean, Syracuse has had a really solid, good season, but now we're just starting to see those hints of greatness, I think.
Brian, you love greatness.
Yes.
Syracuse women's basketball team confirmed as Brian's favorite team ever.
Favorite team ever. Yes, we'll go right with that. Coach Q might be my favorite coach now.
Coach Q's wardrobe might be my
favorite wardrobe. That's what I was trying.
Just his glasses.
just a side note, and yes, there's your side note for the show. I saw the guy walking.
5 more side notes.
5, no, yeah.
There was a guy who walked around, I saw today, with the short tie and the clip right under the knot. And I went, Coach Q, starting a fashion trend.
A different guy had it?
Yes, a different guy.
In a women's game?
No, it was just I was walking around the mall and I saw
you were
a guy
walking around the mall.
And
there we go.
And I was my day was made. I can't even lie.
I want to go back and I want to talk about one more thing about the men's game, men's ACC. They released all of the postseason awards today, and I'd just like to run through those real quick. So Malcolm Brogdon from Virginia wins.
Obviously.
I thought Bryce Johnson was going to be named Player of the Year. Malcolm Brogdon get Defensive Player of the Year. So Bryce Johnson is also a unanimous first-team All-ACC with Malcolm Brogdon. Cat Barber, my Wolfpack, represented and as a first-team All-ACC selection. He led the conference in scoring. So,
well, he won't have any competition for the Wooden Award from Ben Simmons.
Womp womp. Grayson Allen from Duke, first team, and Jaron, and I cannot say his name. Blossom Game. Is it actually Blossom Game?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Dude, it's...
And Jaron Blossom Game joined from Clemson. Michael Benajay, the lone Syracuse representative on the all-conference teams.
He's on the second team?
Yeah, his second team. Got 155 total points, so, respectable.
Yes.
He also made the all-defensive team.
Mm-hmm.
Malachi Richardson, he got a vote for League Freshman of the Year.
Do they feature an all-rookie or all-freshman team?
And he's on the all-freshman team.
Is he? Okay.
Yep. And
not Frank Howard.
No Frank Howard. No, not mentioned.
His time is coming.
I was going to say, did Roberson get a vote from Boeheim?
And Michael Benajay, he got a vote for Defensive Player of the Year.
Silent G.
So, Silent G.
Got a vote for Defensive Player of the Year.
You're listening to Orange Pulp. That was just a recap of the ACC, both men's.
One more thing. Tyler Lydon got 6 votes for Sixth Man of the Year.
I think that's
that's very
it's
respectable.
a good accomplishment.
But Isaiah Hicks
sure.
winning that makes sense.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
100%.
But then you look at like Isaiah Hicks' stats for the year, and you're like, oh, Tyler Lydon's better.
Well,
Stat-wise. But also Tyler Lydon comes through on
Hicks had an
on
amazing
losing
game
games.
against Syracuse
Yeah.
when North Carolina was here. He really did.
Isaiah Hicks might also be my least favorite player.
I was
going to
say, look
Oh,
past.
from North Carolina. Bryce Johnson is my least favorite player, but we won't get into that.
Will we find out why they hate him? We'll see that and a whole bunch of other things here on Orange Pulp. Welcome back to Orange Pulp. MLB preview. The look I just got from Ellen says it all.
I'm a lax rat, what can I say?
The AL and NL East.
So we'll let Ellen bow out for this one, but then she'll take over the lax one. Maybe I'll step out for that one. How about that? We do
I
a
can
one.
guarantee I'm going to be less vocal on the lax one.
Well, we've been lacking in lax for the last few weeks, so now
It's because
we're
Ellen's been out of studio.
and so Ellen's here, and now things have changed. And is that a selfie in studio, Ellen?
In studio selfies.
All right, let's do it. Let's get to it here.
I don't even know where to go with that, but okay. So Tim, we're going to start you off with the beloved Red Sox.
Beloved?
Yes.
Well, Brian, as you and I both know, kind of uncharacteristically for the Red Sox, 3 out of the last 4 seasons with a World Series mixed in there.
Say, that's the weirdest part of
to
all
the
of it.
fact that they finished last and dead last, almost one of the worst teams in baseball the last 3 out of 4 seasons. So as I kind of look forward to this year, I see the Red Sox certainly winning over 85 games. All right, but and some people may say, well, that's not enough, maybe over 90.
But, you look at that and you say, they've been so bad for so long. They have to, get above that pinnacle. They
Right.
have to be able to get better at some point.
Right, but my concern is where do they really get better? And their biggest issue was obviously pitching.
Yes.
Last year. I do look at some of the acquisitions. All right, you bring in David Price, a signing I wasn't very excited about, but a lot of baseball people would be excited about with his
I'm very
statistics.
excited regular season wise.
Yeah, but I think sometimes too some guys don't start winning until they get on the right team.
Yes.
He pitched some really great
Good
games with
and
Toronto
it's
and didn't
one
get
of
the
those-
support.
It's one of those things that when you hear Rogers can't win games at the end, he's not clutch, and then you go actually look in the stats and say, hey, no, he gives the team a tie or the lead, and then his defense loses it. There's got to be some run support, which he hasn't had. There's been a couple games where it is on him, but he has
Right.
more.
And Price has already pitched in a World Series with Tampa, I believe. That was some of his early years with the Rays, because I remember him facing the Red Sox
That
in the
team
ALCS.
was so good
They were.
as
So
a pitching staff.
he's got experience. I like the Craig Kimbrell signing because I think Koji is starting to get older and he can't really close anymore.
For the
Kimbrell.
Red Sox, I feel so lucky for you guys. He's a pleasure to watch as a closer.
So hopefully he can slam the door. But some of their other acquisitions were a little weird this year. Chris Young from the Yankees, not really certain there was any extra need in the outfield. They did sign some familiar names, Brennan Bosch and David Murphy, to minor league deals. Those guys could come up and help, in injury situations. I think some of the backstories for the Red Sox this year are obviously going to be David Ortiz's last season. I don't necessarily know if he's going to get the Jeter treatment
will.
all the
He
way
will.
around, but I think in some places he will.
I think he will
for sure.
entirely.
New York actually is already planning. They've
Yes.
already said they're going to have something. So that's pretty cool. I think we're building off of a few things. Xander Bogaerts hit 320 last year. Dustin Pedroia, can he come back and be consistent? Their outfield is just loaded with young players. Mookie Betts, Jackie Bradley Jr. proved he could hit at the end of last season. Still waiting to see what Castillo is going to bring on his huge deal that he signed when he came over from Cuba. Brock Holt was an all-star player as a utility guy last year. What can we expect from Hanley Ramirez moving to first base? How many games is Pablo Sandoval going to play at third? I mean, these are just kind of thoughts that I think...
Depends on how many donuts he curls.
Well, that's true. But sometimes when he eats more, it's when he hits better.
That was when against Verlander.
Right, so I'll take that. But there's just a lot of question marks with this team with the talent that they have. I'm also curious to see if Yoan Moncada is going to come up. He kind of tore through the minor leagues last year. If they struggle in the infield and they want to try to ditch Sandoval, maybe he can play third. So a lot of question marks, as I said. Their pitching staff, Price, Buchholz, Joe Kelly. I like Eduardo Rodriguez as a young lefty and Rick Porcello. So many wild cards for the Red Sox. If they can get their talent together, I think they can win 85 and maybe get that wild card.
Zach, as soon as I saw that we were going to be covering the NL East, I went, I wonder who Zach's going to put on his own schedule. That would be the Atlanta Braves, and you're representing them with the A hat. So,
the A with a tomahawk, the alternate cap. They don't wear that
I know,
that
this
much
used to be the Sunday hat. But yeah, the Atlanta Braves, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They're going to suck. I think
hashtag analysis.
I think 75 wins is
optimistic.
But that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say 75 wins for the Braves. The one thing that I can say is they spent all off season not getting better. They shipped talent away, got a lot of young talent, got a lot of prospects to develop. So in the next 2-3 years, in time for the new ballpark, they should be phenomenal.
So that Reed Brignac signing is not really exciting you very much, is it? Or Eric Ibar? You're not too thrilled with those?
I would love to be excited about that, but I'm not. When I got the alert on my phone that Andrelton Simmons had been shipped off to the Angels.
Oh, that's right. They traded him in the offseason, too.
I said, "What
Christmas.
are you doing? You're trying to get worse."
I'm sure that wasn't the exact wording you used. I think you cleaned it up.
That was not the exact wording. I cleaned it up a little bit
because
there.
I think it was over summer session, and you looked at me.
And I think I said, "What the?"
It's a podcast. You can swear.
I know. I'm not going to throw the F-bomb out there. Their pitching is not bad. Maybe. I'm trying to find some positive from this team. They are very young. They are very young, and this season is going to be spent developing talent.
I think that's going to be your exact analysis for Philadelphia when that comes up a little bit later on my end.
No, I mean, I'm going to look at that team and say they're just trying to be bad.
Well, that's their growing up, but I'm just saying
it's a very young team. Still have Freddie Freeman, one of the best first basemen in the game. Freddie Freeman, he's one of my favorite players.
It's got to get on a good team.
I know. For him, I want to see him do well. They got Michael Bourne back in the offseason. I guess you could say that's the biggest signing.
He started the year with them, went to Cleveland, then back to them?
Yeah.
No, the Braves had him. Cleveland signed him for like this ridiculous 3-year deal for like $60 million, which I thought was a dumb signing to begin with.
Well, that's baseball.
And then they cut him, and so he's back with the Braves now. Yeah.
You're listening to Orange Pulp. That was an enthusiastic version of the Atlanta Braves analysis from a Braves fan who's being realistic. Now, we have the Yankees. So there's an interesting way to view the Yankees as it's the second year of AJ after Jeter, the third year of after Rivera. It's one of those, they're in a transition year. And last year, CC Sabathia had his worst season as a pro, and you can obviously tell his best years are behind him. He even checked out early, doing the whole rehab thing, seeing what's going with there. Tanaka, he could be a legit ace.
He's almost one throw away from a Tommy John surgery, too.
Yes, but that's the
more
thing.
Like half a throw away from
is
if that elbow's going to get shredded.
If he can stay healthy, which there's nothing about him that makes me think he can stay healthy. And you look at everything that he can do, awesome pitcher, but you guys both alluded to it. He's such a high-risk injury player that I just don't know. Now, the lead out of this we know what it is. So before we get into that, since it's on pitchers, we'll transition quickly to hitters, and then we'll go to Chapman. Hitters-wise, A-Rod has strangely had an awesome spring training.
First
had a
week,
good year last year.
Second pitch he saw, he sent over the fence.
Yep.
And you never know what to make with them. I mean, obviously they're in a hitter's park. Teixeira went from in 2009 when he got there being a Hall of Fame candidate possibly. In 2009, his years were exceptional to being an average first base hitter who is in a hitter-friendly ballpark because shallow right field is ridiculously easy. A fun person that could be in the future to look for out in the outfield, Aaron Judge. If you haven't heard him before,
he's one of their top minor league guys, right?
And he's a natural right fielder. And if Beltran struggles, because Beltran says he wants to play like another 500 more years, that he could possibly go in and leap up. He's something that's interesting. And, I mean, you got McCann behind the plate, so you don't really see anything of Gary Sanchez, who could be an option. So McCann is going to be a decent hitter.
Yes, McCann can, right?
Yes. And
Brian McCann is fantastic.
So you have that thing. Now, the giant story being, and this will kind of open up to everybody on this, Chapman and the domestic issue. 30-game suspension.
Not enough.
I agree.
I third that.
The thing with baseball and the thing with domestic violence, Ray Rice changed the game on how things were handled.
And baseball could have changed it.
And baseball did change it. Not as much as you guys want, and I'm not saying that 30 games is the right number. I don't know what the right number is, and I tend to agree with you. It's not enough. But baseball realized, we need to step up our game so that doesn't happen. The NFL has taken everything on the chin, and then the other leagues have learned that we can make it worse and worse and worse. Now, no appeal for Chapman really seems to come down to, even though he's pleading his innocence that he didn't choke and whatnot, I highly doubt that you're just not appealing for the sake of not appealing, that you're pleading your innocence but then saying, oh, no, that's good. It's one of those strange things. And then for him saying later, I'm done with guns now. Well, you think of everything that happened leading up to that. Haven't we seen enough of this? And thinking there's a way that with rainouts and everything to that effect, he cannot serve a full 30 games because of the way dates lay out. That if rain delays happen and just on timing, it's a very unique circumstance and very unlikely to play out. But there is a scenario where he can end up serving less than 30 games because of the rain situation. He's also a reliever who wouldn't be pitching 30 games anyway.
He'd be getting close, though.
Yes, but it would be inning-wise, maybe he hits 30 innings, but it's not an everyday player that you would say. Now, it's not to the opposite extreme where if he was a starter, it would be he's missing 6 starts.
Yeah, but they never do that with starters anyways. Even when they get in fights and stuff, you're going to miss 6 games. That's 1 start. What's the big deal? So it's kind of the same thing with this here. Like you said, there may not even be enough save opportunities over the course of those 30 games that he misses. That how many games does he really miss?
He's an awesome pitcher. There's no arguing with that.
He could still easily go the rest of the season and lead the league in saves.
I mean, he went 33 of 36 last year, only blowing 3.
And also with any court case, you don't appeal something when more information is bound to come out.
Well, and that may be the case. I think one of the things they've talked about too, though, I don't know if we just said it here, but his free agency is impacted by whether or not he takes
that's
this.
The other big thing.
So I think that was his whole thought process was win, lose, or draw. I don't want to lose my free agency stuff, so I'm just going to let it go. But you're right. Yeah, I mean. Can you jump to an appeal? Can you do that? And if more information is going to come out, so
to that point, he doesn't want any games tacked onto it too.
Exactly.
Right.
You're listening to Orange Pulp, and maybe this isn't the right. Actually, I know it's not the right time for this. There's too much else to talk about, and it's too big of a topic. So forget about what I was going to go through. Well, it was going to be
Let's get to the NFL Combine questions.
That's a bit later. Fun NFL Combine questions back by popular demand. But wrapping it up, saying there's a larger issue to be talked about. It's been talked about a lot now, but as the Yankees as a whole, I just see them doing somewhere middling in that 85 to 90 win group if everything falls correctly and healthy, and that's a best case scenario for them.
Everything has to fall into place for the Yankees, and again, you can have a great bullpen whenever Chapman is ready to play. Andrew Miller, we've seen a lot from Dellin Betances the last couple of years, but they have to have a lineup that's consistent. Some of these sluggers go on real crazy slumps for them. I'd be interested to see how good Starlin Castro is going to be as a second baseman for the Yankees. So that
might be the player that I'm most excited to see how he does.
I think defensively up the middle with Gregorius and Castro, it's pretty solid. But just like we said, there's a lot of wild cards for the Red Sox. A lot of things got to happen for the Yanks.
You're listening to Orange Pulp. Now, up next with you, Tim, covering the Mets. Obviously, an interesting experience last year, losing in the World Series. How do they stack up for next year?
Well, the Mets are my National League team. Some people aren't, they don't like the fact that you can have a team in both leagues. But I'm not as much.
I have an AL team.
I'm not as much of a Mets fan as I am a Red Sox fan. So
I just don't understand it. But okay.
But so I watched a lot of the playoff games last year, and it was a dream season for the Mets. I mean, minus the World Series, it was almost like the '69 Mets that had no expectations to be in the World Series. So it was kind of crazy on that regard. I think what's great for the Mets, you get Cespedes back, for 2 years, really solidifies that lineup
with that great team-backed contract that is helping nobody but Cespedes.
Well, and then he can get all these different ways to travel to the games.
19 different cars.
Could we just take a quick little detour and say, if you could drive one of Cespedes' rides, which one would you take?
Well, he couldn't keep the pig. I don't know if you know that he bought that pig a few weeks back from the kid in the state fair, and there are laws in Florida that you can't bring a pig out of state or something like that.
Well, I'm pretty sure the one travel arrangement we wouldn't be taking is when he did his bike and walked back home, because there's a lot sweeter rides. But back on the Mets.
So that was good. I also see, they got Asdrubal Cabrera, which can be a good infield help for them. Neil Walker was a solid infielder for the Pirates, so I think they solidified that bench, which was something that the Mets kind of didn't have a lot of great answers for. Health is always going to be a concern with David Wright. I was shocked he even played in the playoffs last year because they said that injury to his back was so severe it could have been career-ending. I'll get to the pitching staff in a couple seconds here. Lucas Duda, is this the year Duda, who has good stretches of the season, can put together a really good full season at first base? They obviously had Henry Mejia was banned for life from Major League Baseball, just before the season started, so there's some bullpen issues there. But I think with the Mets, again, you look at the starting staff, Harvey, DeGrom, Syndergaard, Matz, and they brought Cologne back. And we learned Cologne, as fat as he is and as old as he is, he's consistent, and they could use him in the playoffs anytime they needed him in any inning to pitch. So I'm thinking the Mets over 85 wins again. Other than the Nationals, there's really no competition for them in the division right now. So it's just, can the Mets replicate another playoff season? And I don't really know. But
Zach, where do you go on back in the AL East with obviously the Rays and the Blue Jays? Toronto obviously having their stellar season with Joey Bat Flips. And then you have the Rays who they can't draw anyone.
Personally, I really like to watch the Rays play.
I do too, but no one goes to their games.
You're right, they don't. But the Rays have a pretty unique problem this year. They have too much starting pitching.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking at their roster right now. There's like 6 or 7 guys that I could see starting games for them. They have Chris Archer, who is a stud.
He's a solid pitcher. Very solid.
He's going to be really good someday. Alex Cobb, Alex Colome, Drew Smiley pitched for the Diamondbacks, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he signed with them. He came in this year, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Jake Odorizzi's another one.
Yeah, Jake Odorizzi.
Matt Moore. Having Matt Moore back is going to be critical for them.
That's going to be a huge pickup for them. They've got a ton of pitching. So in that respect, it's good. But then you look at their lineup and you're like, well, you've got Evan Longoria.
What about
Is he related to Eva?
Steven Souza Jr.?
What about who?
Logan Forsythe.
I think I saw Logan Morrison.
2 Logans, back-to-back Logans.
Yeah.
Wow.
You look.
They have no one to protect Longoria.
Yeah. You look at the rest of the Rays lineup. There's nobody. So, I mean, it's can they piece together a lineup that can score runs?
But you know they're going to win 70 games at least because they always find a way to muck things up in that division, even if they finish last.
The thing with the Rays is...
Since they switched to the Rays, when they were the Devil Rays, that didn't happen. But the year they switched to the Rays...
The thing with the Rays is you know that they're going to win like 85 to 90 games.
They can. In a given year, they can, and it's sneaky and weird.
There's going to be like 4 teams in that division outside of the Red Sox that win 90 games. And you're like, how is that possible?
For Toronto.
For Toronto...
Obviously, they have a bit more power in there. And then they have...
Yeah, they might hit a few homers this year.
And then they have R.A. Dickey and...
They have R.A. Dickey. They have... I cannot think of the dude's name right now.
Marcus Stroman?
Marcus Stroman. He pitched at Duke.
Did he really?
Did you know that? Yeah.
One of the only pitchers to wear a single-digit uniform number. You never see that with pitchers.
I know. They also have J.A. Happ, who I think is awful, but he finds a way to stay in the majors.
He used to be with the Phillies.
Yeah, started with the Phillies, went to the Astros. They've got Gavin Floyd, who I think is always a solid starter. So, I mean, their pitching is going to be really good. Then they've got Russell Martin. Obviously, they've got Joey Bats.
Donaldson signed the 2-year.
Got Donaldson for a few more years. Troy Tulowitzki kept him, which that was probably not the best decision. Got Edwin Encarnacion. So, I mean, they've got the power. They've got the pitching. They showed that they can put it all together.
I think it's the bullpen's one of the bigger issues. That just fails them miserably when they've been such a good team.
But I mean, the thing with them is they're going to score so many runs. It's hard for other teams to catch up.
In the regular season, yes. Once you get to postseason play with shorter starting pitching, more days rest, that's where the shallow bullpen comes back. You're right.
You know that they're going to win 90 to 95 games this year,
and hit 1,000 home runs as a team.
Yeah.
The Rogers Center doesn't exactly hold him in the ballpark.
I could see Bautista pushing 60 this year.
That's an aggressive number.
You know, it's an aggressive number,
he keeps breaking 50.
Yes.
But who are you going to, so if, you don't want to pitch to Bautista, then you got Encarnacion, Tulowitzki,
right after him.
Tulowitzki to protect him.
You walk Donaldson at the 2-hole, and you got to pitch to Bautista at the 3rd hole. I mean... It's dangerous.
It's a dangerous lineup that teams are going to have to figure out some way to get out.
You're listening to Orange Pulp, and that was just breakdown of both the Tampa Bay Rays and the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, complete Philly coverage will be very simple. Very, very simple.
They suck.
They're not a good team. They're going to look a lot like they did last year. Last year did not go well at all. The thing is, they're a young team with a lot of their talent not coming up till the end of the season when the expanded rosters come in, and then next year, kind of that flow of, okay, they're a young team, they've built up prospects, and down the line they could have someone, but as of right now, it's just not a good team and not expected to do anything. There's your quick gloss over of the Phillies.
One thing I want to mention about the Phillies, I know one person on their roster. Yep. Met one person on their roster, Elvis Araujo. He's from Venezuela, but he played with the Mudcats while I was covering them. So he's a good guy. Not a good pitcher.
How hampered have they been by this Ryan Howard contract? And the only thing good coming out of Ryan Howard is Subway commercials. I mean, seriously, there's nothing else coming out.
He was so good in his prime.
Ellen's still here, by the way, because she laughed. She's been quiet during this baseball stuff.
But Ryan Howard cashed them checks.
That's all he did, yeah.
Are they still paying, Rollins and Utley?
I wouldn't be shocked if they're still paying Utley's contract.
But didn't he re-sign with the Dodgers, though?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So maybe but they probably sent cash over with him upon that trade, yeah. So
now for the Nationals, a team that had just a litany of injuries this year. Very, very good team. We thought coming in last year with that pitching that they're going to be insane, and then they add Scherzer, and he had his best year last year.
Max Scherzer's money.
And
he's making money.
He threw a no-hitter last year?
Yes, he is.
He threw 2 no-hitters.
Did he throw 2 no-hitters? Wow.
The big thing with them was they had so many injuries. Now, obviously, Bryce Harper, just look at him for a second and you realize this is a different animal. And I don't know, did you guys see his crazy workout the Vine that got posted? Where
Which one? Because it's like every day he sends out a new one.
The one that went completely viral, the insane core where he's on the yoga ball. It's just insane that he's doing squats on a yoga ball. And it's crazy of just... And then you watch him in batting practice. You have to see 2 swings and you realize, obviously, he's a different dude. 1 NL MVP. Thing is with all the injuries we talked before of who's going to protect your best hitter in the lineup with everybody hurt, they tried getting Cespedes. That didn't work. They tried getting Jason Hayward. That didn't work. They tried getting Justin Upton. They didn't actually officially offer, so there was no sign there. The thing with them is Ryan Zimmerman, he could have one of the best options in the middle of the order if everyone stayed healthy, including a person we saw here in Syracuse, Steven Strasburg. If this guy can stay healthy, which is a big if, I see him having that breakout year this year. And just think with Scherzer and Strasburg at the top of the order.
That's such a huge if, though, if he can
stay
stay
that's
healthy.
why I did say it's a huge if.
I know.
But he's got such a talent, but it would be great if he could stay healthy.
You know who's one team that always has his number, no matter how bad they are? The Braves. I think he has like 1 career win against them. And I'm like, why? They've sucked the entire time you've been in the majors.
But it's a beautiful park, and I will never forget a couple years ago, the game that went 18 innings, something to that effect. And you just couldn't stop watching. And then last year they fell off, but it's a great stadium. I was just there last year. Fun park, beautiful stadium.
Where are the Nats?
Yes, and it's just
a good park.
It's just an enjoyable team to watch and enjoy, and I expect them getting back into it. And with how cold they started, then it felt like they caught a run, and then at the end, everything just teetered off. I see them actually placing first in the division, passing the Mets, because I think the Mets have a little comeback to earth moment this year. Now,
and it's a big question of, are the Nationals going to be said that they're going to win the World Series this year and then choke and miss the playoffs again?
Now for the Orioles.
There is one big name that everybody wants to see how he's going to do, and it's nobody's really seen him play before, and his name is Hyun-Soo Kim. I tried to say that with as little bit of an accent as possible.
You said he's from South Korea, right?
South Korea. He's an Asian player, and the Orioles signed him. Yeah, he's from South Korea. The Orioles signed him, and I heard him say the first day that he went to spring training, he was amazed at the number of people that actually knew who he was.
And that was outside of the Japanese media, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think you gotta look with the talent that's come out of South Korea in recent years. I think a lot to do with the World Baseball Classic, but you got Chu out with the Rangers.
Asians have always been big in baseball.
Well, they have, but Japan was always like the country that really focused on it the most. It's never really caught on in China as much as you would expect it to.
Or India.
Well, you know what? India's, some people...
They got their cricket.
They got cricket, and some people have tried to cross over from cricket bowlers to pitchers. So
I heard that movie based on that story was pretty good.
Was it $1 Million Arm or something like that? I never saw it.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, they said it was good. So I wouldn't be surprised if this guy has some talent, and you put him in a lineup that features Adam Jones, who some people have sort of said MVP candidate some years. I never really believed it, but he's an all-star.
It's Mike Trout.
He's really
I was
the
gonna say
MVP.
Mike Trout's
They got Mark Trumbo, who
he used to be a Mike Trout teammate.
Yeah, used to be Trout's
stupid
teammate.
pop.
Matt Wieters is back, kind of second year after the Tommy John surgery that he had.
Chris Davis is going to, he's going to.
Chris Davis signed with them after some controversy. You're right. So, I think this Oriole team may not be as good as they've been the last couple years when they really surprised people and were a legitimate contender. And you look at their rotation. Chris Tillman, Kevin Gosman.
Ubaldo Jimenez.
Yeah, who is that really his name? Was he the one that had like the weird name change, or was that
No, it was
Fausto Carmona became
yeah.
something else or whatever?
Roscoe or something.
I always get their names mixed up, but
they've got Zach Britton too, and he's money.
Right, Darren.
Just because we share a name.
I knew that was coming.
Darren O'Day, the submariner, right-handed guy out of the bullpen for the Orioles. So I think the Orioles will be a good team. I think they might win 80 for sure. But not a playoff situation for them.
And they've got one pitcher that he can hit when they have to play in a National League park, Giovanni Gallardo. Because he
played the Brewers, right?
Yeah. When he played with the Brewers, he always hit 3-4 home runs a year.
So I think it'll be a solid season for the Orioles, but nothing to get too excited about.
I think 500 is very realistic for them.
Yeah.
You're listening to Orange Pulp, and after not hearing basically from Ellen for an entire segment, she's going to become the focus of next segment as we talk about lacrosse. You're listening to Orange Pulp.
Forgot about the Marlins.
That's fine.
Okay. You didn't want to talk about Mattingly and Bonds? It's okay.
You're listening to Orange Pulp. We've got one more team that we needed to cover.
The most hated team, and what they did should be criminal with that stadium, and then having all their players for half a season, and then selling everybody. So yes, let's go talk about the Marlins.
I'll make it quick. Their two key acquisitions were Don Mattingly and Barry Bonds, and that would have been great acquisitions, like from 1985 to about 2003. But Mattingly will be the manager. Bonds will be the hitting coach. Put the HGH stuff aside. We all know that Barry Bonds,
stick it in the butt.
Barry Bonds' talent is unbelievable.
The shot.
Bonds' batting eye and his hand quickness. He's got a lot of things I'm sure he can teach young players outside of the steroid thing. The only real, I guess, sort of three big stories for them. Can Stanton live up to the $325 million contract? Last year, he only played 74 games.
That's the point.
That's the point. It's the injuries.
Well, he got hit in the face.
Yes, I get that.
His face got destroyed.
But is anyone worth $325 million? And I don't think he does not. I'm very, very suspicious of him actually ending his contract in Miami, because they've sold everybody else that they signed to a big contract. Why would Stanton be any different?
Well, I think they knew that probably going into the deal. They said, if it gets towards the back end of this, some other team can pick it up. Like be it the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers.
That's smart business.
It kind of is in a weird way.
The GM should just be.
Here's our Marlins side note. So the second side note of the year.
Not mine.
Ichiro Suzuki, 2,935 hits, so he's going to get to 3,000 hits this year. Also, he's got, between Japan and the United States, he's got 4,213, and Pete Rose finished with 4,256.
The problem is you can't really compare.
Well, you can't, but, they always used to say, before Bonds, Hank Aaron was the home run king, but Sadahiro hit over 800 home runs. Mm-hmm. So when we get to this, who's got the most home runs, who has the most hits in baseball history globally, it's going to be two Japanese players again. And D. Gordon led the league in hits last year with 205 in the National League. So, some small subplots for the Marlins. They probably win 70 games, maybe, sub 500 team.
Yeah, in the National League East, you've got the two teams, the Mets and the Nationals, that are going to be good, and the other three teams are not.
Good thing the Braves and the Marlins have to play each other 19 times.
Yeah, it's always exciting baseball.
That's a playoff for the seller.
TV
it's a seller
right
playoff right there.
Watch them be playing on ESPN Monday Night Baseball or something sometime.
We good with the Marlins?
We're good.
Okay. You're listening to Orange Pulp. So, in transition to lacrosse, Ellen, take the floor with men's lacrosse. How do you want to go about talking on just coming off of a hard-fought win against Army with the 9-8 win? Or how do you want to go with it? It's your floor to
just
run.
Beat Virginia, too, so that was a big win. So
yeah, they only beat Virginia by 1 goal, but I think the biggest thing with this team this year is the offensive depth. Last year they graduated superstars like Kevin Rice and Hakeem Leckie. This year you're seeing everyone get on the board. Of course, you have all the action from Dylan Donahue, who it seems defenses have been zoning in on him, really focusing on him, which opens up the crease for other players. Like Tim Barber had a hat trick along with Nick Mariano and Derek DeJoe in the game versus Virginia.
I really like DeJoe. I think he's really good.
He's incredible. He has one of the fastest shots I think I've ever seen. He's just so strong. He works really hard, and he's very modest, too, and humble in postgame, which I think speaks a lot about a player's maturity and character. But, again, on the men's side, Jordan Evans, junior attack, says this is the most team-oriented team he's ever played on, which I think just speaks so much for the Syracuse squad, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them heading to Philly Memorial Day weekend.
Ellen, talk about that face-off situation.
Ben Williams?
Syracuse wins every face-off, and what do you feel as far as tempo that sets no matter who the opponent is? Because Virginia is a very formidable program year in and year out,
right?
And they win. So,
right. Well, Ben Williams won 18 out of 29 face-offs against Virginia, which isn't his best showing this year. I think we really saw him in beast mode, I guess you could call it, against Albany. Mm-hmm. But having a great face-off guy in men's lacrosse especially is key because possessions rarely change in men's lacrosse. So you get the possession, you want to score a goal. It's rare when you see the defense really put up a stand. So if you control the possession, you are controlling the game.
We talked about it last week. Lacrosse is just one of those weird sports where don't
call it weird.
I enjoy lacrosse, but it's the only sport I can think of that if you score, you win the face-off, you can get 5-6 possessions in a row.
Exactly.
Now you can argue hockey, they have face-offs. How long do you hold on to the puck actually? This you can hold on to the ball for so long.
It'd be like taking a jump ball in basketball every time you scored.
And if you hit behind such a line, it's yours.
Yeah.
But it's for everything. So it's such a pivotal thing and changes the score so drastically.
Yeah, definitely. I think you've seen that in recent years as well. The face-off really becoming key, and a lot of high schoolers focusing on the face-off, which was going to be my Burr's bonus points.
Okay, I'll save my questions about that for during Burr's bonus point.
But yeah, men's lacrosse, very deep offensively. We haven't really seen a ton of challenges on the defensive side, but Warren Hill, the goalkeeper for Syracuse, did have a career-high 13 saves against Virginia. So the defense is being challenged as the season goes on, which is going to be key as they play these tougher opponents.
They got 4 games in a row here. St. John's might be kind of an easy one.
Yeah.
I don't know much about St. John's, but they got Johns Hopkins
at
Johns Hopkins, at Duke, and then come back home to Notre Dame, which has a solid program. So how is
better than solid?
What's this gauntlet stretch going to be like for the men?
It's going to be tough, but I mean, when you get to NCAA tournament season, that's how it is. You're playing great team after great team, and I think it's great preparation for them to play these outstanding programs so early in the season. You see it with the women as well. They had Florida this week and then Virginia, and next up they have Maryland, and bit of an upset win on Tuesday against Florida. If we want to go into talking about the women now,
transition going.
Ellen, I was actually sitting in the newsroom watching the women play on ESPN3. So, just because I've actually gotten into this team, and I'm like, I want to see how they're doing. And I was like,
and lacrosse
Florida is very good. But with that 11-10 overtime loss, how bad of it was it that it was a mistake on Murray's part running out to midfield?
Well, it could be. I guess you could call it a mistake, but I mean, she wasn't being pressured. You see goalies go up all the time like that.
I have I've been trying to do research on it. I've always enjoyed watching it. Can the goalie in women's soccer? I know there's not the hitting that there's in the men's. On the men's side, can the goalie get hit? Because I always see when a goalie runs out with the ball, defenders are attacking mids and whatnot, run up to him,
and you
but
can pressure
never
it.
Actually touch him.
You can't hit him in the crease, but you can check.
But even when they're out of the crease, I see them run up and
you can still check it. That's what you saw in the women's game on Tuesday. You saw the Florida player check Allie Murray's stick after Murray had brought it over the midfield line. And
so is that where the change is? Because just as the casual of trying to figure out where, is it the midfield line that you can start checking?
I'm pretty sure it's out of the crease.
Because I've seen it so many times where they run right up as close to him as possible, or her in this case, and then not touch him at all. and like do the stick to try
Right.
try to block view and whatnot. But it's almost as if they've been trained not to hit, where it's almost like a goalie in hockey where you can't hit them in the crease,
No,
and you can quote hit them out of the crease. But whenever a goalie gets hit out of the crease, a whistle always blows anyway.
Well, I think the refs are a little more sensitive to when a goalie gets hit.
That's my question.
But you still can check the stick.
Within the rule, okay.
It's just not inside the crease. So yeah, I don't think that was a mistake on Murray's part. She wasn't being pressured. It was a little weird because, of course, as soon as you seen that Florida defender come up, you want to get rid of it, and she held it a little too long, I think. But that being said, I think Syracuse came out very flat on Tuesday against Florida, and Florida had, its first couple goals right off the bat. They were very vocal, very energetic, and I think it kind of shook up Syracuse to start.
In transition to Virginia, with Syracuse going against Virginia, how does that go?
Well, I think Syracuse came into that game with a chip on their shoulder, especially Kayla Trainer. Kayla Trainer and Hallie Majorano were being face guarded the entire game against Florida. So both of them you saw kind of out of the offensive equation. And then Trainer comes back with the Florida game and scores 6 goals. So I think it was a nice wake-up call for Syracuse to have that loss early in the season. And it was a respectable loss, too, because Florida has a great, extremely athletic program. They were running, Syracuse players are very athletic, but Florida was just running them all around the field. Those girls were so in shape. Women.
You're listening to Orange Pulp, and that was just your lacrosse breakdown for Syracuse. Now,
Well, let's not finish lacrosse. I'll tell you why.
Okay, go ahead.
Albany lost to Hartford in the America East men's
Oh,
basketball
my.
tournament. So my basketball is like kind of over. And Ellen was at the U-Albany lacrosse game yesterday. I just need to hear a little bit of Great Danes coverage just to feel better. So
Brian,
I don't want
know
her.
it-
I don't want her to be
Brian, I
done
know
yet.
It's not greatness, but it is the Great Dane.
Danes.
Well, my autocorrect... Yesterday I was tweeting about the game for Lax Sports Network, and my autocorrect corrected Great Danes to Greasy Danes. And I started getting hammered on Twitter. I was like, this is so embarrassing. And somebody's like, well, I guess their offense is pretty slick. Hashtag greasy.
Yes.
Well, you know what? This won't. We don't.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for bringing this into our
We
lives.
don't have a lot of listeners, so I'm not scared to say this. So there is a high population of Long Island students
I've got you on the mute
Yeah.
button
that
right
that
now.
go to. No, you don't.
I'm about to.
No. And they use a lot of hair gel. I noticed in my time there at U-Albany. So to
Yeah.
say Greasy Danes, it's not an inaccuracy. So
Okay.
they went way off. there.
And they are very...
You sounded a little Italian there. Yeah, you know.
I'm from Utica.
That's right. I'm honorary. I've got some marinara sauce coming out of my skin here. So.
Scusi?
Yeah, but they're also greasy in the fact their offense. You get the ball in that, in the Albany's offense, and with Connor Fields, Seth Oakes, the Great Danes offense is so talented. It's just a matter of getting possession, and here again, face-off is key. Albany really lucked out. Had a fantastic defensive stand with Blaze Reardon in goal. Had 18 saves. If the defense hadn't played like they did yesterday, Albany wouldn't have won that game because I believe Cornell won 20 out of the 25 face-offs, had the possession for most of the second half, and still just couldn't convert because the defense was so mature and so poised.
And Cornell's tops in the Ivy, and they're historically a team that goes deep into the tournament. So, yeah.
You're listening to Orange Pulp. Coming up next, one of the greatest players of all time in his sport calls it quits. We'll have that and, backed by popular demand, Combine questions. You're listening to Orange Pulp. Orange Pulp with Ellen Burr, Zach Francis, Tim Ferguson. Peyton Manning is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. You can argue, did he do in the playoffs what he should or shouldn't have? But tomorrow he holds a press conference, and Mort has already broken that. Chris Mortensen has already broken that.
Wait, is Mort back? Is he feeling better?
Well, he's had a great connection with Peyton over the years, and there's that. So I'm guessing Peyton kind of told him, and that'd be, but it's still obviously his
Chris
treatment.
Mortensen was the first one
to break the story,
say it,
yes.
yeah.
And with that being said, good for Mort, and then hopefully everything will be working out well for him. But Peyton will be calling it a career and what a career it's been. Zach, I know you're really passionate about Peyton Manning and you have a bromance for him. Zach, lay it on the line.
I don't think that there is a better way he could have gone out. Because everybody always said...
What would be the better way?
Well, no, everybody always said that he couldn't win the big one, having only won that one Super Bowl.
I really hope that sound came through.
No, I know it did. But yeah, everybody always said, oh, Peyton Manning, he's not as good as everybody says he is because he only won one Super Bowl. Well, he won that second one. And as this season was not good...
He did not play well.
He did not play well at all.
And he didn't play well in the postseason either.
No, but he still went out on top.
And he had a dirty defense. Just filthy.
Yes, but...
The filthiest.
But Peyton Manning, he's still getting that ring.
Oh, yes.
He still started that Super Bowl at quarterback. So, I mean, for me, I would have loved to have seen Peyton Manning's career go on forever. But everybody knows that at some point you've got to hang it up.
It's cliche for a reason. Father Time is undefeated. And
I mean, in my opinion, Peyton Manning is the third greatest quarterback of all time.
Third might be a little high for me.
Tom Brady is number one.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, Tim. I said Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time.
I agree.
He's the greatest quarterback, the greatest living American.
The world's greatest living American.
Tom Brady's number one. Joe Montana's number two. Peyton Manning's number three. You've got to throw those regular season numbers in there.
I do, and I didn't off the top of my head go through it because I wasn't planning on ranking, but obviously he's up there and he is one of the greatest of all time.
Johnny Unitas is probably number 4.
Johnny U. Boy, that just threw us all off there.
So there's the idea. The thing with Peyton was he was incredible on the field and even more incredible off the field with what he did in the room, work ethic, everything, the tape that he studied. Just remember that there was the debate of Ryan Leaf or Peyton Manning. Which way could you go? They're both going to be amazing quarterbacks. And I remember reading a story somewhere.
Worked out well for the Colts, not so well for the Chargers.
No. And the thing is I remember reading a story on Peyton coming in during the interview session and basically saying, you can draft me first and it'll work out. I'm not quoting verbatim, but something to this effect. You can draft me first and it'll work out, or you can not draft me and every year I'll come and kick your bleep and bleep.
We're bleeping a lot.
Every year.
Did he say kick your ass, but then he put an F word in front of it? Is that what it was, Brian?
Yes.
No, kick your bleep.
Oh, no, he said kick your bleep.
Yes.
And then I'm going to go drink a lot of Bud.
Papa John's.
Some bleeping Bud.
But I want to take a small little second to talk about Peyton with that poll of everyone thought there was going to be this big announcement, press is there, or there was no media there for recording, so it wasn't, but there was all these people there, and he goes, I know you're expecting a big announcement. Papa John's has a sale going on. And it was hilarious the way it went. And it was one of those moments where you go, yep, no one sold more product than Peyton Manning.
Okay.
Did you not hear this story?
No.
Oh, it was... I'll have to pull up the full video because I don't have it written down. I figured you guys had heard about it, but it was a very entertaining...
Brian, you know what? Zach and I are connected. Ellen is connected. You are connected in a way that I don't know if any of us can be. Because the information that you acquire is beyond the information we acquire.
Well, it's what
and
happens.
that's a compliment.
Okay.
That's not a diss. I know you're thinking it could be a diss. I'm telling you, you are connected.
I just wish I had the transcript because obviously I don't do it justice because when I heard it, it was pretty funny. But, Tim, what did you take on of Peyton's career?
You know what? I had a chance a few years, maybe like 2-3 years back to... Maybe it was more than that.
I was going to say 3 years ago was Denver switch, so if it was the Colts time.
No, it was like 2012 or 2013. But anyways, Denver came to New England, and I had a chance to see Brady Manning, regular season. And, the Patriots won, which was great. But, just to have the opportunity to see Peyton Manning was really awesome for me.
Was that the night game with all the wind where Denver jumped up to that huge lead?
No, this was like a 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon. Like
Okay.
CBS had the broadcast,
CBS.
but it was not a Sunday night game. Or
Okay,
Monday night
because
game
I
or
remember
anything
that
like
one
that.
Sunday night game where, so I wasn't sure if it was.
You know,
that
I'm going to remember the interceptions to Rodney Harrison. When he was with the Colts. I'm going to, remember a lot of those things. But, Peyton Manning, to me, was, even though, with Brady being in New England, people want to create him or relate him to Larry Bird. But I always felt more like, Peyton Manning was a Larry Bird. And even though he was Brady's rival, it was impossible for me not to appreciate what he did. And, I think, unfortunately, some of the different things that have come out in the last few weeks about his character might sour some things for a time period. And then after that, people are obviously going to say this guy, on the field at least, was one of the greatest players to ever put the uniform on. So that's what I'll remember.
Also, I'm sure you weren't too mad that Peyton was 6-11 against the Patriots all time.
Well, I'm not mad about that, but Peyton Manning, too, I never rooted against Peyton Manning. Unless he was playing the Patriots. If he was, it wasn't like that guy I couldn't stand, so he'd be playing any random team, and I'm rooting against Peyton. I hate Peyton. Never felt that way. So.
Ellen, what are your final thoughts? Well, I mean, not final thoughts on Peyton, but just seeing the career come to an end.
It is time.
Concise and to the point.
I'm not good at that, Ellen, so thanks for showing me how to do that. Get in, get out. Let's go.
Now, the weird thing about that is potential Hall of Famers, just think of everybody who's retired this year. Marshawn Lynch, Peyton Manning. There's several other that, of course.
Peyton Manning, first ballot Hall of Fame.
Peyton Manning, first ballot Hall of Fame, no question. And, of course, now my mind just draws a blank on who are the others that were top tier. But we'll do this in a transition on the NFL Combine questions. Now, it worked out well last week. People got a positive review, thought it was funny.
Ellen, you're looking forward to this, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
And
With a smile bigger than the studio, she's looking forward to this.
so, questions from the NFL Combine. Obviously, there's questions we can't ask. But so I took.
Well, not some teams are asking questions they shouldn't. But.
Well, they have right to ask anything they want, apparently. But one question that is kind of funny and interesting, and I feel like I already know one answer someone's going to give. But if you could have any superpower, what would it be and why? There's a lot of thought process going on, and we'll see how it's stalling. So yeah, it's if you could have any superhero power. There's so many lists that you can think of. And just don't even call it just your typical ones. It can be anything. Open it up to anything.
Well,
Zach looks like he's ready.
I've always thought that I'm more of a defensive player, so I'm going to go with super strength. So that way, if a blocker comes up, I can go right by him. I can make any tackle. So super strength. That's the way it is.
Ellen.
Controlling time. You
Why?
can go.
Santa Claus does that too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
How else do you expect him to get to all those?
No.
houses on
You can go
50 feet?
forward, backwards. You can speed it up. You could slow it down. So with that, you have super speed because you can slow down everyone else's time. You can go back and correct mistakes or make things better.
But wouldn't that create its own mistakes?
Oh, damn it. I threw an interception.
Exactly.
Let's rewind.
Exactly.
He's
I would've-
gonna
Or
be
you could,
right there.
or you could stop it and move the players.
Yeah, I was gonna say move,
It's the most brilliant superpower anyone could.
move the ball up 2 inches.
Exactly.
Tim, what would be your
Tim can't
superhero?
beat that.
Seriously, I'm not going to even have a good answer. I have no answer. I've never actually thought about that. Couldn't even think about it on the spot. I don't know if
You've never thought about that?
No, I really haven't. So
Not
give me the
even, like,
next question.
flight?
Like this would be one where I'd say pass, and I probably wouldn't get drafted by that team. So
Okay, Tim, I'll hit you up with the first one. If you could marry any fictional character, who would it be and why?
fictional character.
Yes.
So like an actual character on a show. Well,
Show, book, whatever,
okay.
fictional.
There's three answers to this. Okay,
Yes.
so that makes up for me not. Okay. First of all, when I was in my single-digit years, turning into my preteen years, there was no woman
Kelly
for me
Kapowski.
other than Kelly Kapowski. I'd
There
say
we
that.
go.
Okay, Kelly. I think guys still fantasize about Kelly Kapowski. Then as I got,
She was the first girl that I had a crush on.
yeah, I didn't even know.
Either that or the Pink Ranger.
In the Ranger suit.
Power Rangers I never got into too much, but I didn't know what crush meant when I was about 7. But Kelly Kapowski showed me what crush meant. Then we're going to transition to Joey Potter on Dawson's Creek, a secret shame of mine. But at the time,
Dawson's Creek.
But at the time, okay, why am I blanking on her name in real life? Katie Holmes was absolutely beautiful to me. Okay, and then my last all-time favorite, which is the one I will love forever, and she doesn't know it, but whatever Rachel McAdams' character name was in The Notebook. I know my man card is like totally defeated right now, but I really don't care. Rachel McAdams.
Burned.
Rachel
It's burning
McAdams
before your
is
eyes.
beautiful.
That is cross-threaded, taped together, and then shredded again.
There's my.
That's the second time I've had to take it away from Tim today.
So those are my 3 answers. If I had superpowers to marry them, that would be great.
Ellen.
Zach, you want to go take this one? I'm still thinking.
I know, I'm still thinking on this one too.
Brian, what's yours?
Well, mine is, since he's allowed to give multiple, I have one. Or I have multiple.
Squirtle.
I'm already actually dating her. So.
No, we're
No,
talking
they're
like
not.
the actual
Squirtle.
Squirtle.
Mine's Charmander.
Char! So, Katniss Everdeen. I mean, I love Jennifer Lawrence. Katniss.
Yeah, that's the thing. Jennifer Lawrence is a real person, though, and I
Yes.
can't just marry her.
So I will marry. I will marry Katniss Everdeen.
Really?
Yes.
That's a badass choice. I support that.
Hermione Granger. I am a huge Harry Potter nut. Grew up a Harry Potter nut.
Mm-hmm.
And I always pictured Hermione being beautiful, and then it turned out to be Emma Watson, so I think we could all win.
The third book, I saw the movie, and
Fourth one for me.
No,
Fourth one for me.
The third.
The third movie was when I looked at the friend that I was watching the movie with, and I was like, when did she get hot?
The fourth one
Yeah,
for
me
me
too.
at the Yule Ball when she's all dressed up and what I was like, huh. I accept this decision.
No, it was the pink sweatshirt at the end of the third movie, and I was like,
I bring
we
up
go.
Dawson's Creek, you make fun of me. You bring up Harry Potter.
Harry Potter
I
built
mean-
a generation.
I don't know what generation. I guess it was the one I missed.
Yes, because
yeah.
Harry Potter was my life growing up. And then my third.
All-State and Quidditch, I guess you were.
There's so many ways to go with that. I think all of them are an FCC violation. So, the third one for anime was Mulan.
We were supposed to have an
Wow.
animated
Yeah.
one?
That's
I
I
thought
respect
anime.
that a lot.
Yes, for anime, it was Mulan.
Oh, well, Belle
You're
from
just-
Beauty and the Beast.
No,
Easily.
Mulan is a strong,
Yes.
independent woman.
Who saved China? What did you do today? Yeah, I got 100 on test.
You're just
Yeah,
trying to be
I
like,
saved
hey, I'm
China."
Brian, a radio host who supports feminism.
This could be your first feminist moment. The feminism moment with Brian Armstrong.
Okay, Zach, go.
no, Ellen's got to go.
Okay, Ellen, go.
I'm trying to do something, but Ellen's going too fast. Here we go.
I'll make a man out of you. Not to spoil it.
It's a great song. What?
Man.
Is this from Mulan?
All right,
Never
now that
saw
we're
Mulan.
completely off the rails.
Now that the show's gone completely off the rails.
2 words. Rob Stark.
Rob Stark.
None of you guys watch Game of Thrones?
No.
No.
No, I definitely know what it is.
I've been
but
I've been highly recommended, but I've just.
Well,
I
that
haven't-
just fell flat.
Yeah, I did.
I'll think of another one.
Zach, go.
So I was definitely thinking Kelly Kapowski.
I can accept.
Kelly.
Because have you seen her in White Collar too?
No.
How about 90210?
Yep.
I was thinking Hermione Granger.
Yep.
Was not thinking Mulan.
You know what I realized? Every character is a strong female in my attraction list.
I am gonna go with the original crush. I'm gonna go with the Pink Ranger.
Yes!
Yep, going with the Pink Ranger.
Pink Ranger.
I don't even need to remember her name.
Kinky.
Yeah, that is kind of
Cosplay.
a kinky outfit.
It's all spandex. Next question.
So, do we want to do the third question, or do we want to save another one for next?
Let's go ahead and knock the third question out.
Let's knock the third. It's not as great of a question, so it's not as amazing, but if someone did a movie on your life, who would be the actor or actress?
I was an actor in high school and undergrad, so I'd play myself.
Ellen?
Give me a moment. I can't just answer these off the top of my head.
Tim?
There's only one gentleman, and he hails from Boston. Matt Damon.
I was gonna
There's
say
no
Matt
other
Damon,
guy
yeah.
I want to do it. Maybe Mark Wahlberg. Okay,
I
and
could
if
see
and if
Mark
it was a
Wahlberg.
pirate movie, then Johnny Depp. Those are my three choices right there.
Mine would be Keira Knightley in that sense. I actually was once asked this question for an on-air thing we did at BC for like get to know your student athletes, and I said George Clooney.
Yes!
And I was made fun of that, so I'll pass that. I'm gonna go with the cliche girl answer and say Blake Lively.
Okay. Mine, Morgan Freeman.
Brian, it has to be the same race.
I don't see color.
Yeah, Brian, it has to be the same race.
Then
I think Morgan Freeman would do a great job.
I
as
think
Brian.
Morgan Freeman would, and Samuel L. Jackson would be right better in my intense scenes. Jack,
Brian, who's the white guy that you have to play?
I don't really
Jackie
have one.
Chan.
Uh,
Good.
let's go Leonardo DiCaprio. Get him a second Oscar. So
You might get a Slammy from the WWE. I don't know about an Oscar.
So those are questions. Next week we will have 2 or 3 more. Something, a fun little thing. I think you guys have enjoyed it, having a fun little time. Up next, our final parting thoughts of Tim's takes, Burr's bonus point, Zach zeroing in, and the BA moment. You're listening to Orange Pulp. You're listening to Orange Pulp for our final segment. We're going to get right to it with, you heard a little preview of it before, Burr's bonus point. What do you got?
Well, make it nice and short since we already kind of previewed it. It's all about the face-off. As we said, it's crucial to college lacrosse, and it has been revolutionized in recent years with Greg Renlian, who plays for the Lizards and the U.S. team. He's an absolute beast, and he really showed how important the face-off is with his absolute dominance at the X, and we've seen that here at Syracuse with Ben Williams. That being said, there are these new face-off factories or face-off academies that are coming out for middle school age, high school age kids to practice the face-off because parents think their kids are good at a face-off. It's easy enough to teach at a young age. They'll automatically get some sort of scholarship to a Division I college, and this just goes along with the younger recruiting again. Parents putting way too much money into their children's training at a young age with the hopes that it'll all pay off in the end. But the reality is there are really no full scholarships in lacrosse unless you are just an incredible athlete, like if you're a Powell. But again, yeah, it just goes off
From
that.
Carthage, right? All the Powells are from Carthage.
I know the Powells recently, well, not recently, but within the past 10 years relocated to Cazenovia, New York.
Did they really?
Yeah.
All
Wow.
that video game money.
Yeah, exactly.
Still behind you, though, Ellen, as most famous Cazenovia resident.
Yeah, you know, it's my torch or my cross to bear.
That's true.
Tim's takes. What do you got?
Well, I'm going to talk about something that a lot of people don't get too excited about. Obviously, if your school or your favorite team makes it to the NCAA tournament, you know, that seems to be all that matters. But there are actually 4 other tournaments, and the reason I'm slightly excited about this is because with Albany losing in the first round to Hartford in the America East tournament, They did win 24 games, which was their most in school history, so there's got to be some tournament for them. Everyone pretty much knows about the NIT. The NCAA took it over the last couple of years, so you're kind of getting bubble teams and teams that possibly could have gotten in. But the other 3 tournaments people don't talk too much about is the College Basketball Invitational. It has actually a format of a best-of-3 series in the championship, which Siena won a couple years ago, a New York State team. And this year they announced that the championship series is going to be on ESPNU. So there's actually some coverage for some of these other tournaments. And then the other 2 are the College Insider Tournament and the new Vegas 16 tournament. And
East Carolina won the College Insider Tournament a couple of years ago.
Did they? Those are for schools that are kind of like really on the periphery Division I wise. I mean, East Carolina's in the American, but it's still not one of the...
most people know about East Carolina because of Chris Johnson more than anything else.
Right. So
David Garrard.
Yes.
So this year, the Vegas 16 and the College Insider Tournament, CBS Sports Network is actually going to give coverage to both of those. So I think it's nice that some of these tournaments, which used to only be on the internet, are now going to actually be on television. So if some of your schools don't make the main tournament that you want them to, there's still other ways to watch it. So I just wanted to highlight that thing. Nothing crazy, but there is more basketball for more than just the 68 teams that get selected next Sunday.
Tim, you'll be excited that it's not on the internet because then you can actually watch it.
I actually can.
Zach, what's your zeroing in?
Came out this week that a couple of athletes are going to be hosting children's shows. Cam Newton and Rob Gronkowski.
I'm so excited for Gronk's on Nickelodeon.
Both of these are on Nickelodeon.
The Cam is too.
Yeah, the Cam is too. And, I heard that. Actually, my mom was the one that told me about this. And my first thought was, really? Those are the athletes that you chose? Really? Because, I look at it and I say, are those really, the best role models for children to be having? Because, you look at Gronk, and
Gronk never gets in trouble.
He's a cast member, actually, in addition to being a host, because he actually is probably the mental capacity of a 5th grader outside of football, so he'll be perfect for this.
I look at that and I say, you really should be looking at athletes, somebody like an Aaron Rodgers or...
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, he has his problems with the Patriots. Or like a Mike Trout. Or... somebody from the NBA that never gets in trouble. Brian Scalabrine.
Scal! Shout out to Scal! I love it.
Barbosa.
No, Leandro Barbosa. He speaks with broken English. Tim Duncan. Somebody like that, where it's like they've done everything right, and you can't ever look at them and say, well, that's not really the person that I want my children to grow up being. So... I think that these networks should look at the athletes, not just for their exceptional work on the field, because you can't deny that both Gronk and Cam Newton are exceptional athletes. But you also have to look at their off-the-life field. So I just think that it's something that networks should look at when they're thinking about hosting stuff like that.
Maybe one of the episodes is on the Gronk cruise. Could you imagine the little kids doing... things they shouldn't do.
That sounds like the worst children's episode of anything ever.
We would watch it.
I would watch it, but it sounds like the worst children's episode of anything
Nickelodeon
ever.
used to have a show called You Can't Do That on Television. This is going way back. Get some green slime on top.
Yeah.
Most of the things Gronk does in his life, you can't do that on television. So it's probably a little good example.
Let's not forget that SpongeBob was almost an adult show.
Oh, great show.
Now is it time?
Yes.
For the BA moment. Even Ellen got in there.
So the BA moment comes on Charles Barkley, who has this weird power to say things that would just be completely offensive if anyone else said them, and no one gets offended. Obviously, one of the all-time greats in basketball. And he talked about how he's not going to watch a full game unless it's Golden State, Cavs, Spurs, Thunder. And I think he's talking as the general fan, because I would assume that since he's a broadcaster and analysis, he would do his job and watch all the games coming in the playoff time. And he's right and wrong all at the same time. He's right because we're going to really, for the most people, are only going to watch those big games. They're not going to watch a full game of Cavs.
I'd watch a 76ers Magic game.
Most people don't, though. And I think he's talking for the most people. So he's right in that respect. Now, where he's wrong is his saying that the game sucks now, which is basically quoting him. And that it's only top teams. The NBA, team-wise, is the exact same as it is every other year. There's 4 or 5 teams at the top. There's 3 or 4 teams at the bottom. And everybody else kind of in the middle who just misses the playoffs or gets in and no real shot at winning the title. That's how it is this year. If you go back to Jordan's time, that's how that was with the Celtics and Lakers, their time. That's how it's always been. And that's kind of how life is. And they'll compare it to one of my favorite things outside of sports, and that's amusement parks. You have your cream of the crop. You have your Disney, Universal, Cedar Fair, Six Flags that are your top. Then you have some horrible, horrible parks that are your lower end. And then you have a lot of parks in the middle where I can compare Dollywood, which is a very good solo park, to Boston Celtics, where they're good in the middle. They're going to be higher up, but they need to add a couple more things to get up into that upper echelon. And
you
that's
mean
what
right
you have
now,
with the Celtics.
not
Yeah.
the historical Celtics.
I'm talking right now. Yeah. And you have those. It's a weird comparison, but it's also what I thought of was, hey, it's like a theme park. And you have all of that. So Barkley's wrong on saying, hey, it's different from any other year. But the game has changed, yes. Better, worse, that's for people to argue. I'll say I think it's for the better, but the game has changed. But the result of teams has not changed at all. There's always been those few teams that can win it, few teams that are absolutely dreadful, and a lot in the middle. You're listening to Orange Pulp. For Ellen Burr, Zach Francis, Tim Ferguson, I'm Brian Armstrong. Thanks for listening. We went really long. This is Orange Pulp.